Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Friday. This is First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. And we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today.
I don't quite feel like a Hall of Famer today.
Why not?
Man, I was up late.
Oh, welcome in NFL season. This is 3 days a week.
Welcome to show business.
Not welcome to show business.
No, not quite. Welcome to NFL business.
Monday show, Friday shows, all these shows.
Yeah, this is my 18th season I'm covering. Thanks for welcoming me.
No problem.
Thanks to Antonio Brown, we're going to spice things up because the drama surrounding him is at an all-time high. Wait till you hear the latest stunt he pulled. NBA star Cris Bosh is going to be joining us live in studio. Get our NBA fix. Yep. But we will start with the reason Cris Carter does not feel like a Hall of Famer this morning. Start of the 2019 NFL season. Packers taking on the Chicago Bears. All eyes on Aaron Rodgers in that new Matt LaFleur offense. Green Bay down 3. Here we go. Rodgers to Jimmy Graham. Jimmy going up and grabbing what's his for the touchdown. Packers took a 7-3 halftime lead. Not a whole lot of offense in this one. Fourth quarter, Bears driving down 7. Mitchell Trubisky looking for Allen Robinson, but he's picked off. Rough night for Trubisky, 26 of 45, 5 sacks. Bears would get the ball one more time, couldn't pick up the first down. Matt LaFleur gets his first win as a head coach, and Aaron Rodgers showed some love to Packers defensive coordinator Mike Pettine after the game.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen a performance like that. Obviously, a lot of credit to Mike Pettine and his staff, but to those players, I mean, just incredible effort. We didn't do them a whole lot of favors with our own performance on offense, but I mean, every time we needed something, a stop, they came up with some really big plays.
Obviously unacceptable. Starts with me. So this just told the guys in there, this is not who we are. I was proud of our defense. I thought they played their ass off tonight. Offensively, not good enough, and we're going to fix it. Our guys know that. We have a locker room of high character people. That's why we bring these guys in, because what they do is they don't point fingers. The defense doesn't point fingers and say the offense should have played better. That's not how we roll.
So there was some debate in the morning meeting over whether last night was a great game because defensively it was stellar, or not such a great game because there really was not much offense to talk about. See, what did you take away from last night's game?
I would say a great game. It's hard to play offensive football earlier in the season. I've been telling you guys the last couple of weeks, when you start the season, defenses are ahead of the offenses, and now we're in this era where these players, because of the collective bargaining agreement, they're going to be practicing less, playing in the preseason less, and you could see it. You could see that the defense was 1 or 2 steps ahead of the offense. It suffered in the running game. Neither team could have any type of running game, and that's what we'll typically see for the first couple weeks of the season. But the defense in Green Bay, I guarantee you, the Packers fans, they weren't disappointed. They thought it was a masterpiece. I don't remember ever seeing Aaron Rodgers have that type of defensive support. And if they're going to play football that way, the Packers are going to have a chance to win a lot of games. We've been saying this for years. If they can run the ball, they can play some defense, and they got that with Mike Pettine. The money that they spent this offseason, the draft capital that they spent on their safeties and on their corners is paying dividends, and we could see it last night. So the Packers didn't have to rely on a huge comeback by Aaron Rodgers, a Hail Mary late in the game, trying to win 42-38. No. This is a classic NFC North battle, and the Packers showed the defense that we hadn't seen for a long time. So for me, I thought it was a masterpiece by Mike Pettine and that defensive staff.
I had 2 major takeaways from last night's game. On the Packers side of things, my takeaway is exactly what Aaron Rodgers was when he talked on the field after the game, when he said, "We've got a defense." And then they asked him another question, and he just repeated the same thing. We've got a defense. The Packers' investments on defense, as you mentioned, first-round pick Kenny Clark from a few years ago, first-round pick Jair Alexander, first-round pick Savage, the safety. All those guys showed up in large part. Their 2 big offseason acquisition, the 2 Smiths, Preston and Zadarius, they combined for 2.5 sacks on the game. Those 5 players, first-round picks, big money acquisitions in the offseason, all showed up, and they bailed out a Packers offense that was more than rusty, a Packers offense that was bad. Aaron Rodgers, the plan was for him to play a little in the preseason, but before one preseason game, his back tightened up.
Yep.
Another preseason game, they have the bad field in Canada, so all of a sudden, they seemed like they were late getting plays in. They were going, the play clock was winding down a lot on them. They had to delay a game. They used some timeouts. They just looked rusty in that regard. And on the other side of the ball, it's only 1 week, but the Bears' quarterback problem appears to be real and appears to be concerning. On that final drive of the game, there were 2 plays that were significant, the final real drive for the Bears. And it would concern me if I were a Bears fan which one surprised me. There was a 3rd and 10 that Mitch Trubisky delivered a good pass. The Packers dropped 8 in coverage. He found the weak spot in the zone, gets a first down. That play surprised me. The interception he threw in the end zone did not surprise me. I think a lot of people saw watching that drive waiting for the mistake to happen because Trubisky was flirting with disaster all game long with a few dropped picks. So for the Bears, the defense looked dominant once again, but the offense could get nothing going on the ground or in the air.
To me, the Bears don't have a quarterback problem. The Bears have a situation like all the great defensive teams that have won Super Bowls. There's going to be some Sundays you're not going to be happy with it. If you go back over the last 20 years, the teams like Baltimore, we saw Seattle, we even saw Denver with the injured Peyton Manning hanging on. If you're going to play dominant defense, you can still win a championship, but there are going to be 5 or 6 Sundays out of that 16-game schedule. You're going to be like, man, this offense, do we have enough productivity? I'm not worried about the quarterback. I'm more worried about the wide receivers. Because it wasn't like they had a whole bunch of guys wide open. They don't have a whole bunch of game changers. So before we start pointing at Trubisky and everything, and when you get in 3rd and long situations, where was he supposed to throw the ball? He had to make a play. He had to force that ball. That wasn't like a mistake by the quarterback. That's what happens when you're down by a touchdown. They couldn't settle for a field goal. You hadn't make any big plays, and you can't depend on these young receivers. So for me, Anthony Morgan, when is he going to step up? And they missed Trey Burton, the tight end. They needed a tight end to be able to affect the middle of the field. So for me, before we start pointing at the quarterback, the coach mentioned it too. If he's supposed to be some offensive genius, he's got to be able to come up with some plays.
It's on him.
Tyreek Cohen, he's got to play a bigger role. So let's share in some of this responsibility. He doesn't have the best group of skilled guys. So this is a defensive-oriented team. Let's not forget that. That's where all their resources are. But you're going to have some Sundays. You're like, I remember talking to Ray Lewis. He was like, man, can you guys win a Super Bowl? Yeah. We'll hold them to 3 points.
I guess the only pushback I would give on that is that Ravens team, the Bucks team. You mentioned the Broncos team, pardon me, with Peyton when he was clearly not himself. Those teams didn't go into the season believing, maybe the Broncos team did, we could have a great player at quarterback. They knew they were going to have to work around the quarterback. The Bears, listening to them this offseason, listening to Nagy, listening to the people covering the team in Chicago, had really high expectations for Mitch Trubisky. Now, 1 week, you shouldn't overreact to it, even though everyone's going to overreact to every game this weekend. But the Bears don't want Mitch Trubisky to have to be Trent Dilfer. They want Mitch Trubisky to be a franchise quarterback on a team that has
I think he has more
defense.
talent than those other guys.
Right.
Besides Russell Wilson, on the defensive-oriented teams, he's got more arm talent than Flacco, more talent than the person that you mentioned. So the Bears, let's not forget how they're trying to win. They're not trying to win by dropping the quarterback back 40 times. So, like Coach Mangini said yesterday, why is everybody complaining the guy's slow? They don't have a whole bunch of weapons.
Well, that's the other. They called 52 pass plays to 13 run plays. That's a problem for them because that is not a recipe for Chicago to succeed in a game that was a one-score game the entire time.
And then, of course, the other thing, and then we will get to this, is if we saw enough last night to be able to comment on this new-look offense from Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. We will discuss that much more on Mitch Trubisky and the rest of this opening night in the NFL. But coming up, the other big story in the NFL, will the Raiders release Antonio Brown after what happened yesterday? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. We'll get to the Antonio Brown saga in just a second. But first, the NFL is back. Couple of big plays from last night. Aaron Rodgers hitting Jimmy Graham for last night's only touchdown. You like the play?
When he threw this, C, did you think it was going to be a good result?
Well, Aaron Rodgers never throws the ball into traffic. So he was basically getting Jimmy Graham to post up. They're trying to get Jimmy Graham more involved, especially in the red zone.
All right, little high school football. This is in El Paso, Texas. Andress High running back Trayvon Ware running like a man possessed.
Oh!
Yeah, all the way into the end zone.
Okay, thickness.
Is he going to score?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Go.
Oh, he's tired now.
Man.
The coach is like, lift your legs. He's like, I'm lifting, coach. I'm lifting.
They're up.
Man.
They're getting up.
Oh, that reminds me of the DeMarcus, who was it? Terrell Suggs highlight.
Yes.
That we saw from high school
Little
football.
thickness. Dude,
All right.
like 5'6".
Little D2 college football. Washburn's Colin Wilson, sandwiched between two defenders, still makes a nice catch.
Oh, this is impressive. Anytime the wide receiver catches the ball with one hand and two defenders are close, the potential getting hit, you got to give it up for that.
Wow.
Great stab right there.
I mean, the quarterback set him up to get annihilated there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He
Everyone always says
day.
the quarterbacks are smart. No, they're
What
not.
is this?
All right, here we go. Amusement park. Check out this guy. He makes the clutch one-handed grab
Oh, yeah,
to
someone's
save
phone.
another guy's cell phone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's money
That's
right there.
amazing.
Now, if I ride the roller coaster, I can't even have my eyes open. All I'm doing is calling on my Lord. Lord, 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 Lord,
Wait,
Lord,
that is
Lord,
so
Lord, Lord.
impressive.
That's great.
Man.
It's not only saved the guy's phone, but the people behind him could have got smacked in the face with the phone.
Easily.
Could have been a lawsuit. Wow.
That was great.
That was Hall of Fame hands work.
Wow.
Oh, we
A
got
lot better
one,
highlights at the
finally.
end of the week than the beginning of the week.
All right. Now time to the story that had us all texting offline yesterday. Antonio Brown, the situation in Oakland has gone from bad to worse to perhaps implacable. On Wednesday, Brown reportedly got into a verbal altercation with general manager Mike Mayock, threatening to punch him. This after the star receiver took to Instagram to complain about being fined for missed practices. Well, now the Raiders are reportedly planning on suspending AB, perhaps even trying to void his $30 million guaranteed contract. Here's general manager Mike Mayock.
Antonio Brown's not in the building today. He won't be practicing. I don't have any more information for you right now. And when I have some and it becomes appropriate, you guys will all get it, I promise you. But that's it for today.
I'm not going to get into any of that stuff right now. We'll have an official announcement later, but I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Did you see the incident yesterday after practice?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into all of it. Obviously, he wasn't here today, and when we have some information for you, we'll give it to you.
We haven't heard anything about a potential decision yet. I've been in touch with John Gruden, Mike Mayock from the Raiders, of course Antonio, and we're trying to work through this. The goal is really to work everything out.
Where is Antonio?
He's still in Oakland.
Okay.
And, you know, speaking from my behalf, my objective is to get things worked out between Antonio and the Raiders so he can fulfill his contract and do what they brought him in to do. I don't think it's too late to salvage that relationship.
I don't know about that last part. Let's sink our teeth into this one. Nick, what'd you make of all this yesterday?
Man, Cris called me yesterday around 5 o'clock when all the news was filtering in and didn't even say hi, just was laughing. And I knew exactly what he was calling about. This period in Antonio Brown's life, I don't know when this will happen, but at some point he's going to look back on with enormous regret, I think it will cause him pain.
You can't guarantee that.
Well, it's going to cost him. I think this is going to cost him at least $25 million, if not the full $30 million.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's going to be reflective and treat the situation with some type of logic.
Okay.
Like you appropriating too much for this.
And maybe I am appropriating
and you've been doing that, and I keep trying to tell you it's going to get worse, Nick. It's going to get worse,
and
Nick.
it has now gotten to the point to where in the Antonio Brown Mad Libs come to life after the saga of arrive to your first day at work in hot air balloon, can't practice because you freeze your feet in a cryogenic chamber, try to smuggle a hand-painted helmet onto the practice field.
2 grievances with the NFL.
Now we are to the point to where threatened to fight your boss and held back by the noted voice of reason, Vontaze Burfict. I didn't agree with what he did in Pittsburgh, but I understood there was an objective. Get out, get somewhere, they will pay me money. Give me guaranteed money. And he achieved that objective. He has now done everything to undercut what he achieved, which was $30 million guaranteed. The only way that money goes away, and by the way, the Raiders have paid him $0. By my math right now, he's in the hole about $54,000 to the Oakland Raiders because they paid him no signing bonus. It was $500,000 if he did the offseason training. He didn't. And they have not paid him any salary for the season, obviously. He's now, the only way that money goes away is if you are suspended for conduct detrimental. The Raiders warned him with that letter, and he responded to that by doing something that is the definition of conduct detrimental. In front of coworkers, threatened to fight your boss.
Oh, it was in public.
And so now he is just at the mercy of the court. Now he is simply at the mercy of what does Oakland want to do. And you could, listen, Drew Rosenhaus is as good as anybody at, even when his client does the indefensible defending it. He wasn't not defending Antonio there. He was just like, hopefully we can work it out. Hopefully this can come to a resolution.
Well, he'd like to get paid, too.
Of course. 3% of $30 million, that's about $900,000 that Drew Rosenhaus has on the line in this. So I think this ends terribly. You usually, I can't believe the divorce is going to happen before the honeymoon, but it appears that that's where this is headed.
Well, I just hope that you talked about he's at the mercy of the court. Well, the judge is John Gruden, and the whole football world should be watching because John Gruden has tried to put himself off as a disciplinarian. That's what he did in Tampa Bay. That's why he suspended Keyshawn Johnson. He made Keyshawn Johnson go home for less than what's going on in Oakland. So now you've come out of TV, and I still think you're a TV star. But now it's the moment of truth. You hired Mike Mayock. He came out of television. You made him the general manager. Now are you going to empower him to do his job? Everyone's got a right to be able to do their job, and Mike Mayock can't do his job unless Gruden gives him the power. After being threatened, assaulted by one of the players, Gruden's got to be able to do something to the player. Because Mike Mayock is not going to ever have any type of say around that locker room. Guys aren't going to respect him if Gruden does not back him up. I'll be surprised if Gruden backs him up. Gruden wants the player. Gruden wants the player on the field, and this is what they've invested in. I told you guys, one of the things about Gruden upset me. I know Amari Cooper. I've been knowing him since he was 16 years old. Impeccable character, works hard, man, wants to be a great player. Khalil Mack. Oh, my God. You will not hear anyone from high school, college, or in his days of dominating NFL say anything negative about him, his character, his work ethic. But you allow these guys to come, leave your locker room, and you invested and gave $30 million and empowered AB to take over. That's the culture that you want. You get what you pay for. So I ain't surprised at all. It will get worse. And if they bring him back into the locker room, this is one of many things before ultimately it's going to end up in a divorce. It's just a matter of when we're going to get there.
So that's just it. At this point, don't go halfway. If you wrote that letter that AB already posted, if you're threatening at this point to have all this information and hold all this information and do something, because.
But what is this something? Are you saying suspend him for 4 games, or cut him?
I don't think releasing him. I think suspending him and see if I'm sure it won't make a difference, but at least you can say we tried everything. We issued a warning. We then went ahead and suspended him. Nothing changed, and now we're releasing him. Of course, John Gruden wants the player on the field. He wants what they invested in. 3/4 of this is on the Raiders. They knew what they were buying when they bought it.
No.
To go ahead and complain now that they don't like the merchandise when they knew it was spoiled merchandise.
Hold on. You can't. Three-quarters of this, the majority of this is not on the Raiders. The majority of this is on Antonio.
No. When you decide to bring that into your house,
and then
they controlled that. So whose fault is that?
It is their. Listen, they went into they bought the. I don't want to say bought the product. They traded for the player. I understand that, but even then, see, I know you were saying it was going to get worse.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rooneys met with AB privately, and they agreed we can't move any further. Pittsburgh said that's fine. That's fine. We're going to keep it. What we're going to do, we're going to shop you. We're going to trade you. But we're going to not say anything. What does AB does? He posts a photo, him and the owner, and starts talking about it. So from the beginning, Nick, like, this is all intel that's free to everyone.
Agreed. But when I just have to be fair with what I said when it happened and right now. When the Raiders traded for him, I knew there would be nonsense surrounding him, but I thought a third and a fifth for a player of that caliber, I think we all sat here and said he will be productive for them. He will be a pain, and he will be a headache and a distraction, but he will be productive. I don't think anyone thought it was on the board he was going to be cut before the first game of the season.
No one thought he was going to be
boss.
cut. But Chris Carter has been saying ever since they got AB, ever since he's been empowered to do wrong, they gave him the $30 million. This is just the beginning. He would be lucky to be in Las Vegas. Now, it's not fair to the team. It's not fair to Carr. But I have been consistent about this. No one expected him before the first game.
Right.
But I have been consistent
100%.
that this is just the beginning.
And right now, if Oakland put out to the league, we will trade you Antonio Brown under his current contract for a conditional 7th-round pick, meaning you can have him for free, but you assume the contract. Does any team sign up for it? I think the answer is no. Now, if he gets cut, will he get brought in by a team for a different contract? Almost assuredly, yes. But I think Antonio has done enough to where if you could just take him from Oakland with under $15 million this year, $15 million next year, I don't think any team
This is the thing, Nick. I disagree with you, man. This league is crazy, man. I have seen dudes. I'm talking about real crimes, bro. He hadn't committed any crimes. And teams have tried to sign them or sign them, and they go on to play in the NFL after these events. So to think that AB, because he threatened the general manager, he's getting ready to be out of football? Oh, no, absolutely not. This is one of the reasons why I was upset about Kaepernick. Man, you got all these really edgy guys playing, but because a guy protests peacefully, he can't play. AB, if they cut him, he will be playing somewhere else.
Oh, I agree. I thought I said that. If they cut him, he'll be playing somewhere else. I don't think anyone would take on his contract along with him. I think if he gets cut and you get him for $3 million, the team will take a chance on him. But if the Raiders, before cutting him, said, we'll trade you for nothing.
This is 100% the Raiders' fault. All you got to do is go out there and do the research. And Mike Mayock, this kid was forced on him by John Gruden. 100% on the Raiders, no one else. You can't expect a bad juvenile kid to come into your house and then all of a sudden he gonna have table manners? Absolutely not. You get what you deserve, and it's 100% the Raiders' fault. And Jenna's right about that.
Eric Mangini will be out here to discuss this further. Tom Brady and the Patriots getting ready to take on the Steelers on Sunday, but that doesn't mean there isn't time for a little fun. Nothing says fun like dancing at football practice with cameras watching. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's how I dance. That's
Come
a great
on, Tom Brady. I'm
That's...
sure there are some good dancers on the New England Patriots. I'm not sure if Brady... Oh, okay.
Can you
Belichick,
just take in Bill
Gronk,
Belichick for a second?
Edelman, Gilmore, Brady.
Look at that bunch.
I'm not sure why they're wearing disco regalia, but I like it. I like Belichick's stance there. That's a good one.
It's really good stuff. Definitely
I like all
photoshopped,
things
but
football.
really good.
Like all this.
You're excited for the season? I like all things football.
Belichick. That was a great moment from Belichick.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Bill, you excited?
Nice question.
You excited for this season?
Yeah, I've only been doing this like 40 years. I'm excited, can't you see?
Stories to start your morning. Packers beat the Bears in a thriller, 10-3. 2017 number 2 overall pick Mitchell Trubisky looked a bit shaky last night, completing just 26 of 45 passes, sacked 5 times. Packers corner Tramon Williams said, quote, "We knew if we could make Mitch play quarterback that we'd have a chance."
Oof.
Nick, what'd you make of Trubisky's performance last night?
Did not inspire confidence. He's a young player. It's first game of year 3, and I don't know if Matt Nagy put him in the best positions to succeed. But Mitch Trubisky, he threw one pick that essentially ended the game. He tried to throw 2 or 3 in the first half when the Bears had a lead, and in the first quarter, they were dropped. There was a lot of opportunities. It was a step backwards for Mitch Trubisky after he took a number of steps forward last year.
They have to improve their passing game, but it's not supposed to be a passing team. So it's like Coach Mangini said, oh, the kid's slow. When we recruited him, he was slow. Their wide receivers have to be able to make plays. I don't have a problem with the interception. In that situation right there, 3rd and 10, they can't kick the field goal. He's got to try to throw it to the back pylon. The receiver stops his momentum. He can't get there. DB comes over top, intercepts it. Former Chicago Bear, now playing with Green Bay. So they have to improve the passing game. Their wide receivers got to make plays, though. They missed Trey Burton, their tight end.
Moving on, the Raiders are reportedly considering suspending Antonio Brown after he threatened to punch GM Mike Mayock. The two got into a verbal altercation before practice yesterday. CC, should the Raiders suspend AB for at least week 1?
Well, not many times am I envious of people, but I wish I was Mike Mayock the last couple days, and I wish I could be the one to make an example of them. They have to suspend them if they're going to have any type of integrity, any type of camaraderie with the players in the locker room. You have to have some type of consistency. So he would have to sit to be on my team.
And suspending him removes the guarantees for the rest of this year from his contract and maybe for the entirety of his contract. And I don't know Mike Mayock personally, but I would imagine that if the result of this is not at the very least Antonio Brown being suspended, if I were Mike Mayock, I might go to John Gruden and say, you're picking him over me. How am I supposed to have any authority with any players ever when they all saw him threaten to punch me and he is not getting any type of penalty? Maybe you don't have to cut him, but you have to at the very least suspend him, which could have serious ramifications about his future and his future dollars with Oakland.
All right,
I would have took him up on that one, though.
Oh,
he don't want that smoke. AB ain't about that.
Oh, you like me? Oh, okay.
Oh, he ain't about that.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Want to be tough guy.
Let's talk about an NFC showdown between the Giants and the Cowboys. That's on Fox Sunday afternoon. Dallas has Zeke back in the fold and practicing with the team. Jason Garrett says it's too early to say if his star running back will be on a snap count or not. But yesterday, Jerry Jones had a little gift for Zeke.
As is customary, we take shots with the jersey or take shots. I want to present Zeke his new jersey that I want him to wear. If you'll stand up, Zeke. Zeke who? Here he is. Zeke who? And then if you will help me turn around, that's
It's all in good fun when Zeke gets his money.
Once you get $90 million.
Then it's all in good fun. So Jason Garrett did the thing, CC, you wanted him to do, which is
of course.
Don't tell people what you're going to do on Sunday. Do you think the Cowboys limit Zeke's touches in week 1?
Absolutely. They have to. This is not the normal game plan. They understand what he's missed. Jason Garrett not only is a smart guy, but grew up in this league as a backup quarterback, coached in this league for a long time. He understands. He understands the right message, too, to send to the New York Football Giants. Don't telegraph what the game plan's going to be, but it will be an abbreviated version of the Ezekiel Elliott that we know. They have to do that because they understand. He can't take that type of pounding. And as Jerry said when he was holding out, we need Zeke later in the season to be fresh. That's still true. But having him in the building, yes, I think that he will touch the ball 15 to 18 times in this game. He'll carry the ball 12 to 14, catch a few passes out of the backfield. So that, to me, should be the workload in week number 1.
For people that stayed up last night and watched the end of that, the Packers-Bears game, your friend Chris Collinsworth said something that sounded just like what you said day before yesterday, which was how tired guys are at the end of week 1. And those are guys who have been in the full training camp, the full preseason. It was on the Bears' final drive. He said, this is where this time of the week 1, this part of the game, you are dying out there as far as pass rushers or anybody who's been playing at a full football game. And those are guys who are in peak football condition. Zeke is going to be in, no matter how well he trained in Cabo, he's going to be in the worst football condition he's ever been in going into a pro season. Even after the draft process, he had a full training camp. He had full training camp the year he was suspended. He had a full training camp last year. And so while I don't doubt that when he does touch the ball, he can be effective, I don't think he's going to see the holes much worse. I don't think his actual per touch effectiveness is going to be hindered too much unless he has ball security issues. Of course, you can't give him 25 carries like you might plan to in week 5. Now, the Cowboys are lucky, and part of their negotiation with Zeke behind the scenes always was about who they're playing early in the season. Do they have to have Zeke at 100% to beat the New York Giants with their issues at wide receiver, their turnover on defense, their quarterback situation? But I would expect Zeke to have about 50% of his time on the field that we'd have in a normal game in this game, and maybe around 60% of the touches he would have in a normal game in this game.
And fatigue is one thing, but the other thing is this soft tissue injuries that you talk about a lot, where if you overuse a guy, even if it's situational, and you're like, well, we could use him some more. Tell me what you're concerned about if you're the Cowboys wanting to obviously keep him healthy.
Well, we're not concerned about just the game. We're concerned about after the game, the wear and tear. Can he make the recovery that next week, heading into Washington, that he can have a full week of practice, because that's how you're able to get in shape. You like to build him play 20 to 30 plays, 20 situations where he's got the football in his hands, but it's important next week that he's in practice on Wednesday and Thursday, because that's how you build your body up, build that tolerance up, build your endurance up. So it's important in the game. But it's also watch after the game. How much soreness? And we must watch, is he a full participant in next Wednesday? Or does the wear and tear, the banging from Sunday's game, take its toll on him? Because that's going to really determine how long it's going to be. Is it 2 games? Is it 4 games? Or is it 6 games before he's up to speed? El Bell, when he held out, he came back. He had a slow month.
Right.
I don't think Zeke will be that far behind because of Dallas, their offensive line, and those first 2 opposition.
Yep, Cowboys hoping to see him fully on Wednesday, unless he holds out for a 3rd contract.
No.
That's probably not going to happen.
He's
That's
good on the month.
Probably won't happen. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. On to the Patriots and the Steelers now. 2 AFC giants facing off on Sunday Night Football in Week 1. Both have questions. Steelers without Lev Bell and Antonio Brown. Patriots without, well, a real receiving core. According to Fox Bet, the Patriots are 6-point favorites. Interestingly, Steelers were the last team to beat the Pats back in Week 15 last season. See, what's the key to this game?
Well, number one for Pittsburgh is you have to try to figure out what type of game plan New England's going to have. Are they going to be the team that the last quarter of the season, that being Week 15 and through the playoffs and the Super Bowl, that they're going to be a run-oriented, dominant, 2 tight ends, maybe a fullback and a tight end in the game? Or do they decide, because Pittsburgh has question marks in their secondary, do they decide to air it out? This is one of those times that Belichick, he has a huge advantage. Tom Brady, the receivers, everyone's played in the preseason. I don't expect them to be as sluggish as what I saw last night, where we saw very few of the stars play in the preseason for the Bears and the Packers, and their offense performance, it suffered from that. So first you got to figure out Pittsburgh, what type of team is New England trying to be, and be ready for their changeup, because they'll go through this game just like any other game where they'll try to evolve. I would double team Josh Gordon. I would force them to throw the ball to other people. I know they don't have a tight end that's a threat, so I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh from the beginning, with this new attitude, this new chemistry, this new locker room they have, defensively, they come after Tom Brady.
And the Steelers are trying to do something they've never done with Big Ben, which is beat Tom Brady in that stadium. They're 0-5. Tom Brady has 18 touchdowns and no picks against Pittsburgh in New England. They have dominated them. You mentioned they did beat them last year, which was a surprise, especially given the way Pittsburgh was playing at the time, but that was in Pittsburgh. You mentioned Josh Gordon, and I think that is a very interesting part of this football game, because when we talk about the questions New England has at wide receiver, one of those questions is because you can't rely on Josh Gordon for a full season, because we haven't seen him play a full season in about a half decade. But he's going to be there week 1. He's going to be there week 1. Edelman's going to be there week 1. And so how much do the Patriots lean on the receiving core as opposed to what they were at the end of last season, which was a dominant run team, when they're going to have a center who's never started a game in the NFL, when they're going to have a left tackle who's never started a game in the NFL, when they're going to have replacement level tight ends because Gronk's gone and their other tight end is missing this week as well. In fact, I think their top 2 tight ends that they brought in are suspended for the very beginning of the season.
Kendricks is suspended, Ben Watson suspended.
Absolutely. And so there are real questions there. The question for the other question for the Steelers, I should mention, is are the Patriots markedly better at the one thing defensively they were really bad at last year, which is covering backs out of the backfield. If Todd Gurley were healthy, that's something I think that could have flipped the Super Bowl, would have been dump offs to the backfield to Gurley. You've got Jalen Samuels. James Conner is shown to be at least an adequate pass catcher. Can the Steelers take advantage of that, or is it not something to take advantage of because that's something New England has fixed over the offseason or has addressed over the offseason? Those are the questions to ask, but it would be, to me, very surprising if New England at home with Pittsburgh, with this, what I think is a limited receiving core, what they're used to, if New England does not take care of business and beat Pittsburgh to open the season.
Both teams lost their number 1 target. I mean, the Patriots lost Gronk, and obviously the Steelers lost Antonio Brown. Who overcomes their loss more?
Well, you have more confidence in Tom Brady and the Patriots because they just know how to play the game, and they're going to attack the defense. Tom Brady, he knows his stats against Pittsburgh. Against Pittsburgh, they throw the ball. Don't try to get into a physical contest. So with Tom Brady, to me, it's a huge advantage. And Josh Gordon, you can basically just do it week to week until you get to the Super Bowl and hope that he's in the lineup. We know a number of years ago, the Raiders, they lost one of their starters, decided to go to Mexico before the game. So with Josh, as long as he's in the lineup, you can be like, Tom Brady's going to go to him because he trusts him far more than Demaryius, far more than any of those tight ends. Everyone on the field offensively except James White. So Brady, to me, makes that adjustment.
And this is a hell of a first test for this Steelers wide receiving core with no Antonio. Juju, it's his first real game, first season, certainly going into the season as a number 1. He's only played a couple games in his career without Antonio, where he's the number 1 option. James Washington, after a somewhat disappointing rookie season, I've heard good things of him coming out of camp. This might be the best secondary in the NFL. I'm very curious to see how they deploy Stephon Gilmore. Do they do Belichick used to say, okay, I'll have my number 1 corner guard the other team's second best receiver and double team the team's best receiver? Does he deploy that? Like, if the Steelers wide receiving core, this will be their toughest matchup, I think, all season long. How do they respond to it? That'll be something that could determine the game as well. But I like New England.
All right, Steelers and Pats matching up in week 1, perhaps in January if all goes well for them this season. Coming up, are Antonio Brown's days in Oakland already over? That's ahead on First Things First. MVP Pat Mahomes will be in Jacksonville to face Jalen Ramsey and the Jaguars this weekend. Last season in Week 5, Mahomes had his worst game of the season against Jacksonville, throwing 2 picks, no touchdowns, posted a season-low 63 passer rating. Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites in this game, according to Fox Bet. 3.5-point favorites to Jacksonville. Coach, what does Kansas City have to do to avoid the upset?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be about Patrick Mahomes, and I know what his stats were last time they played. He's going to be fine. That offense is going to be fine. It's more about what they do defensively. And I would imagine that Jacksonville, the way that they're built, is to control the game. Leonard Fournette, he had a good offseason, lost 20 pounds. He was out in Wyoming. He's supposedly a different guy. His ability to consistently control the clock in the running game, and then with Nick Foles to be able to do the same thing in the passing game to keep that offense off the field and limit the opportunities that they have to put up an explosive amount of points. To me, it's how well Kansas City's defense responds in this game as opposed to what Patrick Mahomes and the offense is going to do, because they're going to be productive. They're going to score points. It's just whether they get the chances that they should and whether or not Jacksonville can control the clock.
Yeah, and I want to watch in this game, Jalen Ramsey's had a great training camp. Will he guard Tyreek Hill all over the field? Because if he is, Chris Collinsworth talked about it in last night's game. Coach will tell you this. Man, them first few games, you are not in that type of shape. And in Jacksonville, 1 o'clock start, going to be humid. Man, he is not ready for that type of work early in the season.
98 degrees.
So I've lived in Florida for a long time, and those September games in Miami and Tampa Bay and Jacksonville are brutal. So that's something to watch. If I'm the defensive coordinator, I have that in mind. So I don't think I would put Jalen on him all over the field. Can that defense of Jacksonville create turnovers? Because in Patty Mahomes' mind, he'll remember last year's game, and he'll make some type of corrections. Jacksonville plays a lot of man-to-man. You know, how do I exploit that defense? And Jacksonville's got to try to take Kansas City out of running the ball. Make them one-dimensional early. Take away their confidence. As we saw in last night's game, Matt Nagy, as much as he wants to run the ball and do some hocus-pocus, when you get down in games, coaches call pass plays. And if you can get Kansas City one-dimensional, that's a way for the Jaguars to pull off this first week number 1 upset.
Jenna, you mentioned last year's game, and it is noteworthy. Last year's game, this was a tipping point game for Jacksonville. They came into the game 3-1. The Chiefs were 4-0. They had beaten the Patriots already, they being Jacksonville. It looked like they were going to build on the momentum of the previous season. And despite Patrick Mahomes having far and away his worst game of the year, they got blown out in this game. They were down 30-7 early in the fourth quarter because Blake Bortles played his worst game of the season. He threw 4 picks, he threw a pick 6, and it was like, oh. So, we're back on this train in Jacksonville. You started to see some of the dissension, offense, defense in the locker room, and Mahomes played 16 regular season games last year. 13, he had a passer rating above 100. And 2 of them, he had a passer rating right at 90. And then this game, which you said was 63. It was his worst game of the season. But I agree with you, Coach, that the real question is the Chiefs' defense so bad that the Jags receivers are going to give him trouble? This is the least established, let me be kind, receiving corps in football.
It's a great test,
Westbrook,
though, for the Kansas City
Marquise
defense.
Lee. Well, it's a test in this regard. You can only fail it. I mean, if they play great against this receiving corps, it doesn't mean they fix their defensive problems. But if they can't even cover these guys, then who the hell are you going to be able to cover?
Yeah, I don't think it's more of a numbers game. You want to watch Spagnuolo and watch what kind of system. Because he's planning on platooning a lot of players. He doesn't plan on players playing 60 snaps. He said his frontline guys are going to probably play 40 to 45 snaps. What type of coverages? What type of themes? What type of defense? I got a new coordinator. I'm giving the defense a new chance. I'm not going out there thinking about that ragtag defense that was last year. They got a whole bunch of new players. It's impossible to really give people good insight if you're thinking about last year's team when they have a whole new scheme, whole new personnel, new coaching staff, and all those things, Coach.
And in addition to that, how well do they work together? When you watch the preseason, and this was with the starters, the San Francisco game,
miscommunication.
They cut some guys free, and are they cohesive as they put these schemes in? What's the level of communication? Are there going to be there's going to be plays that are made against you, but how many self-inflicted wounds are you going to have because you don't quite communicate the way you should? And it's going to be a work in progress, but you can have a tendency in this first game to try to do too much, and that can get you into bigger problems than if you just focus on a core group.
And Jenna, you mentioned the 3.5-point line. That line, I don't know how many players on the Chiefs will see.
You were flabbergasted this morning.
The Chiefs should be insulted by it. They'd be a field goal favorite. I think the Vegas' Super Bowl pick out of the AFC. You're playing Jacksonville, a team that last year was terrible. They made one major addition in Nick Foles, and you're a field goal favorite. But if Jacksonville pulls the upset, or if it's a close game, it's going to be because of the person you mentioned, Leonard Fournette. I understand it's a lot of new defensive personnel. I understand it's a new defensive coordinator, but last year where the Chiefs were really bad on defense was against any good running back. They got gashed for 5 yards a carry against everybody. Now, I don't know if Leonard Fournette's a really good running back. I know he was drafted as one. I know he was one in college. He has not yet shown that in the pros. I also read the same things you did. He didn't talk to anyone for 30 days, did the lodge in Wyoming. If Leonard Fournette is great, that to me is the Jags' only real path to pulling off what I would consider a major upset.
Why isn't Nick Foles the upgrade from last year?
No, he's their one significant upgrade, but I don't think it's enough of an upgrade given their receiving corps in a game against the best team in the AFC.
Oh, I thought you said Leonard Fournette was the only.
So you probably won't be in on Monday because you'll make so much money from this game.
Vegas don't know what they're talking about.
No, but he's just going to retire after.
Well, I mean, listen,
this is my experience, and I got a long experience with the league. Don't want to regurgitate that to y'all. Played 16 years, been covering it 18 years. Anytime a guy loses 20 pounds in the offseason, typically, I went somewhere. Typically, when they get to the airport, they pick up that same guy, that same lazy guy that gained them 20 pounds. And during the season, he comes back. A.D. Lacy, remember, I went away. I lost 20 pounds. Yep. And then he ate that old guy at the airport on the way back to the regular season. So typically, that's how things happen like that. I'm a new guy.
Did you say you also didn't talk to anyone the whole time?
I think so. There's not a lot of people.
I didn't hear the not talking to anybody.
Least populous state in the nation.
Like,
I'll take the old, the new, I'll take anything Chris Bosh.
We got to take a break. Coming up, 11-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA champ Chris
Always
Bosh
clean.
joins the conversation.
Good seeing you, baby. Good seeing you, man. Glad to have you on the show.
Welcome back to First Things First. Chris Bosh played 13 NBA seasons, was an All-Star in 11 of them, also won 2 titles in 2012 and 2013 with the Miami Heat. But just as impressive as all of that, he's here with us early this morning, chatting. Thank you so much for being with us, Chris. Love having you here.
Absolutely.
All right, how's retirement going? You just told us about this amazing vacation you just came off of. How are things going?
It's going good. I was just saying summers used to be a lot more fun because I got to do all the crazy stuff and be a kid. I have 5 children.
Oh, yeah, you're no longer the kid.
Yeah, I'm no longer the kid, and now school started back, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, it's your school year, their school year is your summer now.
Absolutely.
All right, so during the summer, while you were wrangling your kids, it was one of the craziest summers, really the craziest summer since the summer you, LeBron, and Wade came together. But that was really one instance. This was the whole league changed in the span of about 96 hours. What was your opinion of it? What was your reaction to it watching it from afar?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a slippery slope sometimes because a lot of fans get upset. A lot of fans get happy, and a lot of fans get upset at the same time. But I liked the league kind of rebalancing a little bit. I think that was really exciting. I mean, the Warriors had their run, and they're probably still going to be successful after Klay comes back. But just reshuffling is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. And I liked how it reshuffled a little bit. The East lost more All-Stars as usual, but I think it's still in a very good, interesting place, and it'll be very competitive next year.
It should be very competitive. One of your good friends, LeBron James, and the Lakers. A lot of hype about them. They've already suffered a significant injuries, already losing Boogie for the season. What would your expectations be because it's difficult to play with LeBron. You got to make a lot of adjustments. They added Dwight Howard. What would your expectations of the Lakers and with this re-energized Dwight Howard?
Well, I think it's a championship or bust situation. I think everybody knows that. If you want to be a part of the Lakers, it's all about championships. You go and play in the Staples Center or go to their practice facility, you're going to see all the greats up there and all those banners looking down on you. And so that's what it's about. And they have a very strong team. I think on paper they have the strongest team. And, of course, they have to put it together. But, it's not difficult playing with LeBron. It's just you have to, you have to change your game.
But you're only playing 82 games. It's not only playing with LeBron. It's the rest of that stuff.
Absolutely. It's a team sport, obviously, right? And, it's a lot of dynamics that you have to get used to playing with them. But at the same time, it's better than not playing with them. You know what I mean? He's a great player. So you want to play with great players. You want to have great teammates and be in those kind of situations.
He's a great player. Is he the greatest player in the league right now? Is LeBron still the best player in the league?
I mean, well, that's always such a relative argument. Yes, but then you have to give it to Kawhi right now because he was on, the best team, was the Finals MVP.
Sure.
So I would give respect to Kawhi, but at the same time, Bron coming off of a nice stretch of off time for the first time in years. I think he's going to be rejuvenated, probably get a little bit of chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And attack this season like he's supposed to.
This is now, we had the era of big threes. We even briefly in Golden State appeared to have a big four. Now it seems to be back to duos. The injured guys, let's make them healthy for a moment. So you have KD, Kyrie, Steph, Clay, Russ, Harden, Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Is there one of those five that stands out to you as the best duo right now in the league?
I think the Kyrie and KD, that's an interesting dynamic because KD can play 1 through 5, guard 1 through 5. I think they have a very interesting dynamic that they can kind of exploit when they get healthy. PG and Kawhi, I mean, that's a lot of arms.
A lot of
that's
length.
A lot of length on that front, in the front court a little bit, and I think they'll be able to kind of really exploit that. They should have a very good defensive team this year. But I mean, I don't know who's going to be the best. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I mean, I'm the type of person that you just have to play the game. It's a lot of hype and everybody looks good, and that's great. You want eyeballs on you, but then when it's time to toss the ball up.
But that's what you said you love about the league right now, that you don't know who the best is because there's parity for the first time in a long time because of all the reshuffling.
Absolutely.
And that's what you said you're most looking forward to. I'm also curious, which move, though, surprised you the most? I know you said you really like all the different moves. Were you surprised that Kawhi went to the Clippers? Were you surprised KD ended up coming here to Brooklyn? What to you said, whoa, I didn't expect that?
Kawhi and KD. I didn't know where.
You thought they'd pair up, you didn't know where.
Well, I didn't know. I think everybody kind of speculated Kawhi was thinking of one of the LA teams. I think that was always heavy in the speculation. Right. But at the same time, the way, Paul going there and then Kawhi going there, it changed the dynamic tremendously in the West.
Right.
Oklahoma City, they're back in a rebuilding situation a little bit. And Paul gets to the Clippers, and now they have a championship caliber team right off the bat. I think that was the moves that surprised me the most. And then Russ going to Houston and being able to pull off that trade.
Do you think that works, those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when people say, oh, man, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Look, 2 MVPs, I'm going to take it and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, but you're one of those kind of guys, though, that I can play with anyone. You can adapt. You can play in the post. You saw with LeBron, man, you went out on the court, man, developed that three-pointer, that nice one from the corner. I want to go back to Kawhi's situation because very few people have the experience of knowing about the people up north in Canada and the type of hospitality. Imagine how tough, because I talk to people. I know Kawhi, know his people. Take us through how tough it was for him to win that championship the way he won it and leave there, even though he was going back home because of the pull of Canada on him now that they were champions.
Well, I mean, I couldn't imagine winning a championship in Toronto because how they treat me, and we didn't win anything.
Right.
We didn't win nothing, and they still very.
It would have been
nice
impossible for you to leave.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the ownership there, the management, Tannenbaum, Larry Tannenbaum's a great owner of the team. He's always visible. You can always talk to him. You can knock on his door at any time. They've always kind of had that open door policy. So that trickling down, and then Masai being the GM, they built a great culture there. And for them to capitalize and win a championship was amazing. But yeah, to leave is not easy at all because, I mean, I know you saw the parade.
Yes.
I mean, just the people and the love that place gives out. I mean, even if you make a business decision later to do whatever you want to do, they're going to make it hard on you. But, I always tell people, Toronto was a great start for me. Some of the best fans in the world.
2003 draft class, the greatest top 5 of a draft class in NBA history, the number 2 pick notwithstanding. That LeBron is obviously still playing at a super high level. You were playing at a very high level, an all-star level, until blood clots obviously derailed what you were doing. D. Wade just finally stepped aside after playing well for Miami last year and having some moments late in the season. Melo hasn't stepped aside. He's being pushed aside to a degree. You know Melo, you played in the league almost the entirety of his career. Why do you think he's not in the league, and do you think he could help a good team?
Yes, he could help a good team. He's a pretty good basketball player. I don't know. I can't understand why he doesn't have a job. Maybe people are still trying to figure out what they want to do with their teams, what kind of, if any, veteran presence, if they want a veteran presence, those slots they need to fill, and if he can fill them. You know, I think it's crazy that he's not playing. I mean, I've been knowing Melo since we were both 17 years old, and, you know, just kind of seeing those things starting to happen, it always does, right? But I think he should be playing. I mean, he's good enough. He's in shape. He can shoot it. I don't know if they watch much basketball, but he can play, you know, and I think he can really, really help a team if, you know, they bring him in.
You've been retired. You've had a second to kind of look back and think about your games and your days. Who's the best player you ever played against?
Tim Duncan.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because he was my hero growing up, and then I had to play in the finals against him twice. You know, being in San Antonio, I'm from Dallas.
Yep.
Being able to see Tim, you know, play right up close and how great he was, and that was kind of the evolution of the 4-man, you know, so.
Real quick on that, you mentioned playing in the finals against him twice. Ray Allen, I think he's told us, has a framed picture, not shockingly, of one of the biggest shots in NBA history in his house. You've got a couple of really nice houses. Do you have anywhere in there a framed picture of the rebound? Maybe the biggest rebound in NBA history?
I don't.
How does that not happen?
I put up all my memorabilia in storage,
house.
actually.
But so you have it in storage, but do you have anything commemorating that moment? The rebound that led to the Ray Allen shot?
I need
forgotten
to.
Rebound.
I should get it, man. I don't. I'm thinking like, damn, I don't. You know, I need some new posters, too, so.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, every time I see you on TV, it's not lost on me what you went through. But I think about you as a person. You've played at a high level, high school, amazing player. Short college career, amazing player. High draft pick by the Raptors. What do you think about when you watch NBA games now?
It's fast, really fast. You know, the game has changed. It's evolved quite a bit. I think the 3-ball was really, really prevalent in the last 2 years. I think that'll tone down just a little bit, but you know, just the speed of the game, the skills of the player. Now it's encouraged for big men to shoot, for big men to handle the ball. Before, you know, you get the coach standing up on the sideline. No! You know, that's how it always happened.
Right.
But you know, now, I mean, it's been waiting for a long time for the game to evolve like that. Now it's accepted, and I like seeing the young guys play. I mean, going out there, playing as fast as they do, and then it being so competitive, especially next year. I love NBA basketball.
You mentioned you're from Texas. You were a Cowboys fan growing up, correct?
Yes.
Still a Cowboys fan?
Still a Cowboys fan, yeah.
All right, Zeke's in the fold.
Yeah.
Went to the playoffs last year, won a game. What do you think about your Cowboys this year?
Hey, man. Feel good. Feel good. You know, it's funny. Everybody, that's always kind of like a thing. You know, it's always a subject of conversation in the fall. Like, man, what you know, who team do you like?
Yeah.
Cowboys fan. Ah!
Well, because people assume you get a different reaction as Cowboys fan. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Maryland. People, you know what I mean? People think you.
I'm from Dallas.
You're from Dallas, so you got it authentically. Now you're around my age, so you remember the glory days, but you were like 9, 10, 11 years old during the glory days. So this is potentially the best era of Cowboys football of your adult life that we're in right now. How much you like Dak? How much you like their team?
I mean, they're a great team. I've had a chance to meet some of the guys, and I went to training camp a couple of years back. I mean, it's a great core of guys. Jason Witten coming back this year, giving that veteran presence in the locker room. I think that's really important. But, I mean, that's what it comes down to. We all know that they're going to get covered. It's going to be a big deal. You know, Zeke, he has his contract now. Now it's time to perform. Dak, I think he knew his situation coming in. Like, all right, cool, we've got these contracts. I'm going to come in and be, you know, the #1 quarterback and do my job. And if he does his job, you know, he will get rewarded. But even after that, you know what it is. You got to, you know, you have to compete for a Super Bowl. And that's just, you know, that's the bottom line.
Standard in Dallas.
Yeah.
All right, did you catch the video of Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade doing a little Aladdin-themed partying on the boat?
I didn't. I heard about it.
Oh, well, why don't we show you, and then you can pretty much let us know
This is unbelievable.
if you would ever have been a part of
Oh,
this.
yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
You didn't know that was Pat.
I didn't know that was Pat. That's Pat?
Yeah.
I did not know that was
There's
Pat.
a little, like, Greg Popovich.
I thought that was another dude, man. I didn't know that was Pat.
Right.
What?
I didn't think it was him
Whose
either.
beard is that?
That's his beard.
That is not what he bought it. His beard.
They're doing Pat Riley's beard like Nick Wright's hair.
Oh, my God. That's what I saw Cris a couple of years ago.
Hey, Bosh.
When he walked in studio,
Right.
he says to me, he's like, man, when I saw you 2 years ago, weren't you bald? I'm like, man, I shaved my head. You can grow hair. People
Yeah, they probably should have worked on that move a little bit. I like the two-step, but you know, they probably should have got a couple more moves
Gabrielle
going.
Union maybe teach D-Wade a few more dance
I
moves.
actually posted that video. I didn't know that was Pat.
Really?
Cris, thanks so much for hanging out with us
Didn't know,
today.
man.
As always,
Appreciate
take a break.
it.
Much more right after this.
Absolutely.
Packers taking on the Bears. Here we go. All eyes on Aaron Rodgers and that new Matt LaFleur offense. Green Bay down 3. Rodgers to Jimmy Graham. Jimmy going up and grabbing what's his for the touchdown. Packers took a 7-3 halftime lead. Not a whole lot of offense in this one. Fourth quarter, Bears driving down 7. Mitchell Trubisky looking for Allen Robinson, picked off. Rough night for Trubisky. 26 of 45, 228 yards, 5 sacks. Bears would get the ball one more time, but couldn't pick up the first down. So Matt LaFleur gets his first win as a head coach, and Aaron Rodgers showed some love to Packers defensive coordinator Mike Pettin after the game. Coach, what'd you learn from last night's game and the Packers win over the Chicago Bears?
Well, I learned I have to be less cynical, because when I heard Aaron Rodgers keep saying, we have a defense, we have a defense, we have a defense, it felt a little bit like him saying, we don't have an offense. We don't have an offense.
Yep.
We don't have an offense. And I'm going to take a step back and say that was just him being really excited about where they are defensively and give him the benefit of the doubt. That being said, it doesn't matter what system he plays in. It doesn't matter what scheme he runs. He's really good, and he's able to make plays that you saw that Mitchell Trubisky just can't, and he's not there. But this offense is going to take some time. The system that he had and that he's run for years, he understood the problems with it. He understood the problems with protection. He understood where to go with the ball. He understood how to layers and layers of answers because of all that experience. And now he's got to think about how to answer some of those problems as he learns this offense. And that's going to create some early indecision and some of the sacks that you saw last night.
New coach, new offensive system. Rodgers plays 0 preseason snaps, which, by the way, that wasn't the plan. He was supposed to play in one game. His back tightened up on him. Was then supposed to play in the next game. It was in Canada. They had a problem with the field, so they kept all their starters out of it. But he obviously looked rusty. This was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination by Aaron Rodgers, by really anyone on offense on either side of the ball. But my biggest takeaway for the Packers was what Rodgers' takeaway was. They do have a defense. And I understand the Bears are limited and it's week 1 and Trubisky played poorly, but you looked at who was making impact. 3 free agents, 3 first-round picks. Kenny Clark from 2016, Jair Alexander from 2018, and Darnell Savage from 2019. 3 first-round picks on the defense, all put their imprint on the game. And then the 2 Smiths, Preston and Zadarius, both got sacks. One of them, I think it was Zadarius, had the sack that ended the football game. And Adrian Amos, former Chicago Bear who they got in free agency, had the interception to end the game. A Packers team that historically has drafted pretty well, but has sat out of free agency until Brian Gutekunst came and took over for Ted Thompson. Those 3 free agents that he added this offseason all made an impact. And if the Packers, it was an ugly game, that's fine. But this was as important individually as any game they will play all year. It's a divisional game on the road against the team that is the defending division champs, projected to win it again. And they took it from them despite not playing well offensively. A great win for Green Bay because of what they were able to do on the defensive side of the ball.
And I think their offense can build confidence knowing that you have a defense. They don't have to pull out games in the fourth quarter with Hail Mary. So as you build this, don't overreact to the first game. But you have to look at your roster and be like, man, we've improved. I mean, last year they were 22nd in defense. Now they have a potential to be a top 10 defensive team. I think the one thing that we miss in trying to analyze Aaron Rodgers, the audible system, Matt LaFleur, never coaching again, we miss their defense in Mike Pettin. Mike Pettin is a former head coach in this league, and it takes some of the burden away. Coach Mangini always talks about it, having that experience, having those ears that you can lean on, someone that's been in that seat before. There's only a few people that can identify with that. He was a calming effect on the game because their offense didn't have to try too much, didn't have to take too many chances because they knew the defense was solid. That's something we have to watch going forward. If Aaron Rodgers happens to have a top 10 defense, he's going to be dangerous.
What about on the other side of the ball, Coach? What did you see from Matt Nagy, Mitchell Trubisky, and that Bears offense?
Well, to me, I agree. It was a really disappointing performance. They had the most information of anybody going to this game because they had worked against Pettin's defense in the past.
Yep.
And I know there were players, but there was continuity. There was the experiences from the previous season. There was the growth of the quarterback in the offensive system, them having experience. I expected so much more from Chicago than they were able to produce, and I just don't know where Mitchell Trubisky is heading. And I don't know if he's going to be a limiting factor of this offense or if he's ever going to become a force multiplier. It just doesn't seem to be on that trajectory.
To me, I have confidence in him because he's got arm talent. He's a good athlete. He's got arm talent. He can throw the ball. He makes good reads. But if you don't have guys to throw to, there wasn't a whole bunch of guys running wide open. So I know it's easy to bang on the quarterback. Oh, Trubisky. But you tell me somewhere they had someone getting some separation and he missed guys. Now, in the second half, when they start getting away from the running game, you're not playing to his strength. But Matt Nagy, as a play caller, their playmakers didn't make the type of plays or create separation that you need for a younger quarterback. But he's got the type of arm talent. He just needs some help. So be patient. This is a defensive dominant team. They don't have a bunch of resources spent on their offense. And let's just go back over the last 20 years. Teams that have won championships and been defensive dominant teams, we know that they're going to have 5 or 6 weeks. You're going to be like, man, that offense is not good enough to win the championships. That's the way Baltimore was. That's the way Seattle was. That's why their wide receivers got mad at me because I said, oh, man, they're not the main course, all right? They're just an appetizer. That's what you go to when your defense is the strong suit. You spent most of your resources on that defense, so they still need to keep supporting that young quarterback.
Well, one of the most disparaging things that you can say in a defensive meeting room is we need the quarterback to play quarterback. We need to force this quarterback to play quarterback. And I forget which.
Tramon Williams.
It was Tramon Williams. Now, he should never say that ever. Publicly, especially since you're going to play him again.
But privately, that's something.
But that's something where you're saying.
That's the model for all young quarterbacks that are dual threats and everything. We want to make him win the game from the pocket.
Right. But there's this inherent belief that if you do that, he doesn't have the ability to be able to win those games. And you would like to think after a year of progressing that wouldn't be the narrative. You know what I'm saying, Chris?
Right.
In the sense that there'd be enough respect for him in the pocket that wouldn't be the key approach.
There was one other moment in the game that I wanted to wait until you were out here to discuss because you say all the time, you do not pick up where you left off. Each season's, its own individually encapsulated event. And Matt Nagy made a decision last night that to me was totally impacted by the way their season ended last year, which was the double doink, the field goal. They now have a new kicker, and you want to instill confidence in him. It's 7-3. They had a 4th and 10 from the 33-yard line. That's a 50-yard field goal, which in the last 2 years in the NFL is an 80% proposition. It's 4th and 10, and he went for it. I saw that, and I said, there is no, that is It was good weather. There was no wind. There was no adverse conditions. That was about not wanting to have a missed kick in week 1 with that new kicker.
I got to push back from you because in the pregame, they had him kicking between 43 and 48 yards. They had the pregame talking about from that distance, he was very comfortable. He was hitting them consistently. Now you're starting to get outside of that, and with that home crowd, given that this kicker doesn't have a whole bunch of experience. So I disagree with you on that based on what I saw in the pregame. And they said 48 yards on a night like tonight was going to be the maximum. So when you get into the game, you pretty much, coach, you know we determine it before the half. Okay, going this way, this is the last, this is it. If it gets past this, we're not going to kick it. We're going to go for it or punt it.
Yeah, and you spend time with the special teams coach prior to the game. You say, okay, how many yards going this direction, how many yards going this direction, and as you start driving down the field and you get in that gray area of do you punt, do you kick a field goal, do you go for it, you're taking all those things into account. What are we gaining from punting? What chance do we have to pin him inside the 1, or inside the 5? Yep. What do we have from a field goal?
And their defense was holding.
Their defense was holding him, and they had punted earlier from the 41 and did pin him inside the 5 and on a 4th and 3 or 4th and 4. I understood that. In 2019, with kicking being the best it has ever been, especially from distance, if your kicker's range ends at 48 regularly, then you have a kicker problem again. That is, maybe it was just last night, maybe it was week 1, whatever it was. But Vedi Pinheiro can't kick a 50-yard field goal on 4th and 10 in a 4-point game. That will be a major problem.
I would have a problem with
Chicago.
that. If we talked about this before the game, I'd have a problem. But I saw the pregame, and they clearly went over at this mark. This is going to be the stop for him tonight. Outdoors, you got to be able to play the wind. You got to be able to play the elements. It was good conditions, but they had said, if they didn't say that before the game, I would be here like, yes, that is going to be a problem. But they clearly went over it before the game, and the 48-yard line was it.
And they clearly have had a problem with the kicking. They had the gong show this preseason. They've had guys in and
you don't
out.
do him a favor if he kicks it and it's short, he kicks it really
wide,
bad. You don't do him a favor by doing that either.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, stick around. Take a break. Coming up, number 1 pick, Kyler Murray making his debut on Sunday. We discuss that next on First Things First. It's time for us to go viral. Antonio Brown's future with the Raiders is up in the air after reportedly threatening to punch GM Mike Mayock. And AB isn't the only wide receiver with thoughts on the Raiders general manager. Check out what Saints star Michael Thomas had to say on Twitter. Says, I wouldn't take Mike Mayock too serious either for the simple fact he had the nerves to rank 5 guys higher than me coming out of the draft. And we all know how that worked out. Thank you for the contribution.
I sent this to you, see, when I saw it. What's your reaction? Pretty soft-spoken, quiet Michael Thomas putting this on Twitter.
Hey, Mike, don't fall into it. Concentrate on the Saints, all right? That's not a fight that you want to get involved in.
Lean out.
Lean out. Okay, I like that, Jenna.
Just remember also, your uncle, Keyshawn, Gruden is the one suspended him.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I forgot about that little family.
Oh,
You're
don't
right.
forget.
You're right.
Yeah, zip it. Yeah, you got your money, zip it.
All right, Michael Thomas.
Time for stories to start your morning. The New York Giants take on the Dallas Cowboys Sunday on Fox. Dallas has Zeke back in the fold. Jerry Jones presented Elliott with a Zeke Who t-shirt. But Jason Garrett says it's too early to say if his star running back will be on a snap count. See, how much do you expect to see Zeke on Sunday?
I expect him to play at least 30 plays. I expect him to touch the ball about 18 times. He's going to run it maybe 12 to 15 times, but you cannot put the workload on him. We saw in last night's game, Chris Collinsworth, a veteran of this league, he talked about it, the lack of conditioning that you have. And now with training camps being shorter, less physical, we can't expect guys to be in NFL game shape week number 1 when you're in Cabo for 40 days. I don't care what Marshall Faulk was doing. There ain't no drills that get you ready to play in an NFL game but playing an NFL game.
And while they're walking back the 20 to 25 plays, it is probably going to be around there. Maybe on the higher end, to Chris's point, 25 to 30. But when he's on the field, I would expect for the majority of plays he's on the field, he touches the football. So if he's on the field 30 plays, 20 touches sounds, 18 touches sounds about right to me. They're not going to use up that snap count on a lot of decoy plays.
Alert for him playing third down because he's a better blitz pickup than the young Pollard, all right, and the quarterback trusts him more.
All right, moving on. Todd Gurley, on the other hand, will not be on a snap count Sunday against the Panthers on Fox. This, according to head coach Sean McVay. The health of Gurley's knee has been the topic of much speculation this offseason. Cece, how important is a healthy Gurley to the Rams' hopes of getting back to the Super Bowl?
I mean, there's only a handful of running backs. The 5 running backs we consider to be dynamic. We got McCaffrey, we got L. Bell, we got Saquon, we got Zeke, and we got him. Them the best running backs. Any one of them. Forget the Rams. Any one of those guys not at 100%, the team cannot make the playoffs. Todd Gurley, it's not about week number 1. It's about the month of December. We saw in the month of December he ran out of gas, and we saw that in that second playoff game.
And they can say he's not on a pitch count, all these things. The draft don't lie. And
he's on a pitch count at practice.
Yeah, and they spent a third-round pick on a running back in the draft. They understand that Todd Gurley, that when he's out there, he can be dynamic, but they're going to have to be judicious with how often he's out there, often he touches the ball, particularly in September, so he's not MIA in December, and for them, the most important month, January.
All right, Sunday on Fox, #1 pick Kyler Murray makes his NFL debut. He'll be taking on Matt Stafford and the Lions. According to Fox Bet, the Cardinals are 3-point underdogs in this one. Here's what Kyler had to say ahead of Sunday's matchup.
For me, playing the game of football, obviously there's a lot of emotions going on, but I always like to keep calm and just, be myself and, trust the game plan, trust myself, trust my teammates going into it, and, go out there, play my game, and let the chips fall where they may.
He's a rookie quarterback in the NFL starting week 1. There's going to be some ups and downs. We're going to make some mistakes, and we'll work through those and continue to try and improve together.
Way to set the bar real low, just in case, Cliff Kingsbury. See, what do you expect from Kyler in his first career
Well, this is one advantage he has. There's a lot of disadvantage. One advantage he has, he got a veteran running back in David Johnson. They have to rely on him to build. If there's 60 to 70 plays in the NFL game, they need David Johnson to eat up 25 to 28 of those. That makes it a lot simpler for a young quarterback to be able to play. On the outside, they helped him out. They have Michael Crabtree starting opposite of Larry Fitzgerald. The combined experience between these two guys, it's about being able to get some separation and make a bunch of plays that other guys won't make, and being covered. Because both of these guys, possession receivers, they should give a young quarterback a tremendous amount of confidence. In last night's game, no one gave Mitch Trubisky confidence outside of Robinson because they weren't getting separation. They weren't making 50-50 plays. With Crabtree and Fitzgerald, it should allow him to be comfortable. He's got comforting voices. He's got guys in the huddle that have been there, have played in a lot of big games, so that should make him calm down a little bit, and their ability to be able to make plays single-handedly, because they're going to get one-on-one on the outside, all right? Matt Patricia's going to design the defense with that pencil he's got, Nick. I know you love.
Pencil in
he's going to design some blitzes and everything to be able to keep Kyler in the pocket and make him a passer, not a dual threat.
How different are the Cardinals going to look from the preseason? Not just in effectiveness, where over the first few games of the preseason in particular, they could not move the ball at all. But we heard, we're not unveiling it. Like, it was weird what they did. They let us know some things, that they were going to go 5 wide at certain times. They gave us some information, but then they said, we're not going to let you see what we're going to be. So, okay, so we will see it this Sunday. I'm concerned about, there's one thing and one thing only that I'm really most interested in watching in this football game. Is Kyler going to be running for his life the whole game? Part of the game? None of the game? I think none of the game is almost impossible. This was a team that last year with Josh Rosen back there, it's not only that he was sacked repeatedly, he was sacked in less than 2.5 seconds on about 5% of his dropbacks. That's insane. That's the 17 times he was sacked last year before he had a chance to read the defense. Instantly sacked. And so Kyler, coming off of a college career, playing behind the best offensive line in all of college football, how different is that going to be? Because they do have good skill position guys. You mentioned David Johnson, the ageless Larry Fitzgerald. Crabtree's still a very credible NFL receiver. They spent a draft pick last year on Christian Kirk. They spent a draft pick this year on Andy Isabella, both second-round picks. Like, they've got skill position guys, but their best defensive player is suspended. They didn't have a great defense last year, even with Patrick Peterson, and he's going to miss the beginning of the year. And we know they have offensive line issues. So how much are we actually going to be able to see from what Kyler can do, or is it going to be a lot of him turning his back to the defense because he's running towards his goal line, trying to escape pressure? That's my biggest concern for him, height and inexperience notwithstanding.
And then quickly, how much of a disservice do you think the Cardinals did to themselves by not taking this air raid offense out to really see what it could do and trying to hold big components of it for the regular season?
Well, I think it's just a difference of philosophy. I know when Denny Green took over and he had a lot of experience, he had more experience in pro football than the Cardinals coach does, but he had been in college football, coaching at Northwestern, coaching at Stanford, being the head coach there. He told us, man, we're gonna show everyone what we're gonna get ready to do. And we broke the NFL scoring record in the preseason. He took a lot of pride in it, and it got us off to a good start. Matt LaFleur, they didn't show us anything in the preseason either. How'd that work out last night for them? They only made 2 big plays, one of them being a penalty. So it's hard to get ready for NFL games, either being in practice or trying to do this peekaboo. Oh, can they see me? Oh, listen, they're gonna figure out what they're doing. He better figure out pass protection. Air raid offense has not been great at protecting the quarterback. And what if you take away the number 1 option in that offense? Does it have the flexibility that you can get to number 2, number 3, and number 4? That's what these college systems do. They get chewed up, thrown back to college. I hope that doesn't happen to Kyler and the system.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.